pitch evaluations. Our hope is you learned a lot in this course. Now is the time to apply what you've learned. We've put together a collection of pitches of varying quality. We'd like you to use our pitch evaluation form to evaluate them. This will help reinforce some of what you've learned. It will also make you familiar with the pitch evaluation form so you can use it for your own pitches. First, in introduction, here's our pitch evaluation form. It exists as a Google Sheet and a Google form. There are 10 questions about the content and 1 about the speaker. The first 10 have a max score of 10. The speaker question has a max score of 50. Why more points on the speaker? Because the speaker is critically important. A perfect score is 150. Something over 110 would be great. We'd like you to evaluate 6 pitches. As noted earlier, our pitch feedback form works on both Google Forms and Google Sheets. But for this exercise, you'll need to use Google Sheets because we can't compare 6 entries in Google Forms. How to do things? Go to this link, www.tiny.cc, pitch evaluations. Make a copy of the sheet, then evaluate each of the pitches one at a time. Note, all of these pitches have been put online as examples of good pitches, so there's nothing horrible here, but some are better than others. See what you think. Let me repeat how to do this. Click on the link, watch the video, then come back to the evaluation form. Answer each of the 10 questions at a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Note, you should also answer the open question. You'll see even great pitches can be improved. You can watch the videos by clicking the links, or just watch the videos that are here in the course one by one.
Over the past 2 years, youth unemployment has been on the rise. It currently represents just under 40% of all unemployment in Australia. Young graduates are leaving university and finding it more and more difficult to enter any form of creative industry. Now, the common stipulation is that you can't get a job without experience, but you can't get a job to get the experience. Now, meanwhile, 42% of small businesses failed in 2003 to 2007, and the figures haven't improved much. Amongst many reasons this is happening is a consistent lack of quality in their branding, marketing, websites, and designs. The kind of training that these graduates have just spent 3 to 6 years training for. Now, what if there was an enterprise that bridged these two sets of frightening statistics? I want to build that bridge.
I come from a conventional middle-class Nigerian family. My father was a professor. My mother was an administrator. And so we had, as was the norm, live-in domestic help who would often come from nearby rural villages. So the year I turned 8, we got a new houseboy. His name was Fide. The only thing my mother told us about him was that his family was very poor. My mother sent yams and rice and our old clothes to his family. And when I didn't finish my dinner, my mother would say, "Finish your food. Don't you know people like Fide's family have nothing?" So I felt enormous pity for Fide's family. Then one Saturday, we went to his village to visit. And his mother showed us a beautifully patterned basket made of dyed raffia that his brother had made. I was startled. It had not occurred to me that anybody in his family could actually make something. All I had heard about them was how poor they were, so that it had become impossible for me to see them as anything else but poor. Their poverty was my single story of them. Years later, I thought about this when I left Nigeria to go to university in the United States. I was 19. My American roommate was shocked by me. She asked where I had learned to speak English so well and was confused when I said that Nigeria happened to have English as its official language. She asked if she could listen to what she called my tribal music and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. She assumed that I did not know how to use a stove. What struck me was this: she had felt sorry for me even before she saw me. Her default position toward me, as an African, was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a single story of catastrophe. In this single story, there was no possibility of Africans being similar to her in any way, no possibility of feelings more complex than pity, no possibility of a connection as human equals. So that is how to create a single story. Show a people as one thing, as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become. It is impossible to talk about the single story without talking about power. There is a word, an Igbo word, that I think about whenever I think about the power structures of the world, and it is nkali. It's a noun that loosely translates to be greater than another. Like our economic and political worlds, stories too are defined by the principle of nkali. How they are told, who tells them, when they are told, how many stories are told, are really dependent on power. Power is the ability not just to tell the story of another person, but to make it the definitive story of that person. The Palestinian poet Mourid Barghouti writes that if you want to dispossess a people, the simplest way to do it is to tell their story and to start with secondly. Start the story with the arrows of the Native Americans and not with the arrival of the British, and you have an entirely different story. Start the story with the failure of the African state and not with the colonial creation of the African state, and you have an entirely different story.
Once last year I got armor and a sword. I found a dog and played with him. I built a house and made a garden. Night came and monsters were everywhere. There was an evil lord that I started killing. Just as I was about to destroy him, time to line up. Hello, my name is Simon Link, and I'm talking about why kids should have an hour-long recess. Did you know that genes change when they get playtime? Out of 1,200 genes that scientists have studied, 1/3 of them have changed when they had a half-hour playtime. Since the 1800s, research shows that you learn better and faster when having playtime. Work that has breaks is more effective than work with long stretches. Some colleagues visited a school that had no recess. They asked them to have recess twice a week so that they could watch them and see what they were like. They were more focused and less fidgety on days when they had recess. Stress impacts on learning and health. For many children, especially those considered hyperactive, recess is an opportunity to expend energy in a healthy, suitable manner. Recess develops social skills. Recess may be the only time of the day when children have an opportunity to experience socialization and real communication. The outside light triggers the synthesis of vitamin D, which many studies have shown increases academic learning. The outdoors is the best place for children to burn calories, practice emerging physical skills, and experience the pure joy of movement. According to Ray Pika, who is a children's physical activity specialist, recess may be research even shows that you learn. Research even shows that when having physical activity at school, you usually have more physical activity at home, and children who don't have the opportunity to be physically active during the school day don't usually compensate during the after-school hours. Running around helps the brain. Thanks to advances in brain research, we know that most of the brain is activated during physical activity, much more so than being a couch potato. Now, stand up and do 10 jumping jacks when I say go. Go! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now sit down. I imagine a world where every child gets lots of playtime. I hope that if you have children, you will make sure that those children get lots of playtime. Thank you.
Our third finalist is Emily Johnston from the School of Pharmacy and Medical Sciences. Her presentation title is Mosquito Research, Saving Lives with Pantyhose and Paperclips.
I came to Australia to study the deadliest animal in the world. Now, there may be some Australian audience members thinking, Struth, science has finally recognized the importance of the drop bears. But I'm not studying drop bears, because around the world, by transmitting diseases like malaria and dengue fever, mosquitoes kill more than 1 million people every year, making them the deadliest animal on the planet. Now, in Australia, the most common mosquito-borne disease is Ross River virus, and it occurs at high rates in some areas, but not others. My question is why? What is it about certain areas that makes them breed disease? If we can understand the environmental factors that contribute to disease transmission, then we can alter the environment or target our control efforts to prevent human infections. But to answer that question, I had to find out where the infected mosquitoes were in South Australia. And traditionally, testing mosquitoes for virus has always been difficult. So I used a new technique. It takes these cards, which are embedded with virus-preserving chemicals, and coats them in honey. Mosquitoes will come to feed on the honey, and in the process, spit virus onto the card where it can later be detected. Now, no one had ever used this technique in a broad-scale virus survey before, so I had to adapt it. I developed new traps and set them at over 100 field sites across South Australia. And I captured over 20,000 hungry mosquitoes and let them feed on the card for a week before testing the cards for virus. Now, you may not think that these traps look very impressive, but science doesn't have to be beautiful. It has to be effective. And these traps are proving to be our most sensitive method of detecting infected mosquitoes. I found 3 types of infection: Ross River virus, Barmah forest virus, and Stratford virus, which has never before been found in South Australia. I now have the virus data I need to conduct my analysis, and I'm collecting publicly available data about the environment surrounding my traps, like the density of human housing, the biodiversity of mammals, and the ratio of green space to buildings, to see if any of those environmental factors can link these virus hotspots that I've shown here. But the most exciting part of my research so far has been the success of this method. Public health officials in Victoria, Queensland, and Western Australia have been in contact with us about implementing this technique for their surveillance next year. And I developed these traps on a tight budget. I used recycled milk cartons, pantyhose, and paper clips to make the traps. Each trap costs less than $1 and can be reused for the whole season. That was important to me because the majority of mosquito-borne disease risk happens in economically impoverished countries. In India, for example, where about 1/4 of the population lives on $1 a day, there are 33 million cases of dengue infection every year. With my low-budget virus surveillance and spatial analysis method, I can help any country, regardless of resources, find out where their deadliest animals occur, why they're there, and how we can stop them from infecting humans. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tori, and my company Endiotics makes tiny pill robots that swim through your body. We're putting the power of an endoscope into the form factor of a pill camera. Doctors use an Xbox controller with a live video feed to control it. It's basically a Mario Kart in your guts. While there's a $40 billion market to disrupt the GI device market, we actually feel that we're creating a fundamentally new category as we usher in the era of microsurgical robots operating inside the human body. Our team has been designing medical devices in Silicon Valley for many years now, and we feel the time has come to swing for the fences on our own. We're currently 56% committed on our angel round, and we're on the verge of first in human. Our minimum check size is $25K to accredited investors, so what are you waiting for?